All right, and we are here again, and we are back again. As always, I'm Matt.
I'm Drew.
And this is the Back Again podcast. This is the only review show that takes a sequel from the past and asks the question, is it worth going back again? We are continuing on our Season 3 comedy sequel lists, and today we are doing the follow-up to the 1992 Wayne's World, and we are doing Wayne's World 2.
Paramount Pictures presents
Extreme Close-Up!
Wow!
That was just like the first movie.
Wayne.
It's Heather Locklear. There is a God.
Heather be thy name.
And Garth
I feel weird.
in their first movie since their last one.
What's it called? It's called,
Wayne's World 2.
Yes!
Wow.
Wayne's World 2 comes out in 1993. Once again stars Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, Tia Carrere, and Christopher Walken. It's directed by Steven Surgic, and it is once again written by Mike Myers, Bonnie Turner, and Terry Turner. Wayne's World 2 picks up, I believe, a year after the events of the first Wayne's World, where Wayne is continuing to do his show with Garth, and he's trying to find like a purpose in his life. So he has a vision, like a dream, of Jim Morrison and a somewhat naked Native American. And they tell him that he needs to put on a big concert in Aurora that he can call Waynestock. Or I guess he comes up with the name later when he's just like kind of bullshitting in the office. But throw a concert in Aurora and this will be his purpose. And that's essentially the plot of the second one?
There are side plots with the other characters, primarily Dana Carvey, and then
there's
Garth.
other subplots.
But the main arc of the Waynestock umbrellas into all of these elements of Wayne's life that he is like growing into as an adult. The big one being his relationship with Cassandra, yeah.
So just in regards to like comedy sequels and comedy movies, right? So this is going to be the second SNL sketch that like Lorne Michaels produced that they turned into a feature film, which is, you know, the first Wayne's World. Now that first Wayne's World, the plot to that is essentially kind of something we've seen a million times before, which is there's like two goofballs, or there's one goofball. In this case, it's two. And then there's a big corporate person that's going to come in and kind of like take the rights to their identity. In this case,
Corporatize it.
Yeah. Rob Lowe finds out that there's this show called Wayne's World. He very easily buys the rights to the show without them knowing because they're idiots. And then at some point they're going to be like, you can't do this to our show. And they're like, yes, we can. We own Wayne's World. And then it's about them not necessarily getting the show back, but using the show to get Cassandra a agent or like a
to win her back.
To get her signed by like a label.
Yeah, and in doing so, win her back. Because they're also broken up at that point.
Exactly. Then when you look at the second one, a lot of those subplots carry over in the sense of Cassandra's going to be kind of wooed by a man, and Wayne is going to get jealous and they're going to break up. Garth is going to have a love interest that's a blonde that's essentially going to be there for comedic beats.
It's a bit of a soft reboot.
But
they're hitting, those are big plot points that they're hitting again. They're hitting the big, Cassandra breaking up with him twice and that being a major plot point in both movies. Mm-hmm. That's redundant. Garth being so into, his arc really bends to him finding love because he's such a unlikable character. Or I mean, not unlikable, but off-putting.
Well,
so
he
that's done
love,
twice.
He finds love multiple times because
he finds love in the first one when it's shoehorned into the ending, when they're actually in like meta rewriting the ending. And then in the sequel, he finds love because she's using him.
Yeah, but then he also finds love with the actual nerdy girl at the concert too, who works at like
his arc is fulfilled. After two movies, he finally finds someone.
Yeah. But also what the biggest difference between these two is like in the first one, it's about establishing the show so that some corporate people can take them away. In the second one, it's already established that the show is like going on. They live at their studio now.
Yeah.
So then it becomes, all right, well, where's the conflict going to come from if it's not coming through the show?
Well, I'll tell you, the answer is clear. It's going to come from the characters. It's going to come from, I was going to say Mike Myers. It's going to come from Wayne. I think that's kind of the problem with the first one, is that it has to establish the show, and the show is very basic. And so it's like, how do we tell a basic story? Or how do we tell a story about this basic concept of a goofballs TV show? The second one, they don't have to worry about establishing the show. They can just focus on the characters. And when they just do that, I think they have more effective beats, more effective setup for comedy.
And I mean, either way, like the fact that both these movies end with like 3 different endings, it's like, okay, let's do the sad ending. Let's do the happy ending.
Well, again, repeat beats. That makes it just seem more like a soft reboot.
Well, all I'm saying is like when you have endings like that, the plot almost kind of becomes irrelevant. irrelevant because the whole purpose of the movie is to be like a vehicle for comedy.
Yeah.
And to be a vehicle to watch these characters like reacting in kooky situations. It's just interesting though because it's like, all right, well, if the endings don't matter, then the plots can be inherently simple. And it's weird because I kind of prefer the plot to the first one because the ending I think works better. Whereas but I do like things in the second one where it's like already established. The problem is that they actually give a plot where he's got to throw this big concert and he's got to get Aerosmith, Van Halen, Pearl Jam. Oh, and it's Rip Taylor, right? So he says he's going to get all these people to come to the concert. He only ends up getting Rip Taylor and Aerosmith. Pearl Jam and Van Halen don't even show up. And not only that, when you're going to do the super happy ending and everything works out in the end, and it is like a bigger like logistical battle.
Do we need to go into how they present these endings, like for people who haven't seen the movies?
Well, I'm assuming most people have seen the movies because we're doing like comedy classics. But if you haven't, like what they do is just 3 different endings. They do an original ending that's like the
They
movie.
do a sad ending.
That's usually the first one.
The idea is that in both the original and the sequel, it ends tragically, and then they're like, "Oh fuck this! We're gonna do we're gonna do a better ending." They do like a ridiculous one, and then they settle on the happy ending.
Now they do They do the Scooby-Doo ending in the first one, but they don't do the Scooby-Doo ending in the second one, I don't believe. I don't remember what the third beat is.
They just copy the 3 beats.
Oh,
it was
do
Thelma and Louise.
Thelma and Louise, yeah, okay. I like that one.
Let's just keep going, Wayne. Okay, go.
Either way, it's like, I'm fine with those endings. It's just that when you make your plot in the second one a little bit more like...
The plot was too good.
Yeah, it was like there was bigger stakes
that
at
the
hand.
joke ending kind of came out of nowhere.
Exactly, because I understand the ridiculousness of him being in... I'm still talking about the second one. Being in the recording studio with Cassandra, with Christopher Walken's character, which is Bobby. And while he's there, he's feeling like emasculated, Wayne is, because Bobby is like, recording her album, and he's a very big music producer and stuff.
It was smart to cast Christopher Walken because like anyone would feel inferior.
Yeah, because I mean Rob Lowe is like gorgeous. I think that's his whole thing in the first one.
But he had like no personality.
He's a con man. But what I'm trying to say is like, so they're in that recording studio and he's feeling emasculated. So then he blurts out, "I'm gonna put on like a concert because I had this dream or whatever." And she's like, "Oh, who's gonna be there?" And then he's like looking around the room and he says Aerosmith and he says like Pearl Jam, and then even Garth is like, "Whoa, really? Who else?" Right? So his lie is getting bigger and bigger. So at that point,
it's snowballing.
It's snowballing, and it's honestly funnier if at the end of the movie, if they're gonna do that kind of quick ending that's just like a joke gag, have everyone show up, have Van Halen show up, have Pearl Jam.
But not in the third ending,
exactly.
Like in the original.
In the original, but like have all those people show up. Instead, they just get Aerosmith and Rip Taylor, and honestly, they only got Aerosmith because Aerosmith
was already in the movie.
Well, they were in the movie, but they were also in one of the original SNL sketches, and it was like a really famous one. That's the one with Tom Hanks where he's like testing the microphones and he's going like, siblets or whatever. So I don't know. It's just like there's things I like about the second one, and there's things I like about the first one, and I feel like both of them had good moments for themselves, but then both of them also like had missed opportunities.
I don't know if we want to go that much into directly comparing them right now, but I would definitely say I agree with that, but I think there's a lot more strength in the second one, or the strengths in the second one are a lot more important to a good movie. Because that ending, like, you're going to get a gag ending either way. It doesn't really matter how it's executed to me. The fact that, the Thelma and Louise beat lands enough that I don't really mind.
Rewatching both of these back to back, I will say like there definitely is a like directing like tone that shifts. And that first one was directed by Penelope Safiris. I guess that's her name, but she did a lot of documentaries and stuff, and she was already like an established director, but just didn't have a break yet. And I think that like after this, like I don't know, it just feels like a hungry director. Not to say that the second one directed like poorly. It's definitely much more comedically directed.
Well, that's the thing is I think it's directed more like an SNL skit, the second one, which fits the comedy better, I would argue.
And I guess that there is like...
Because that's the thing is they're not doing indie movie comedy when they're doing these SNL skits. So, I think it's interesting the way the first one's directed, but I think it's more complimentary in the second one.
Well, the director of the second one, Steven Surgic, he directed a lot of like Kids in the Hall, like episodes. So he's already coming from a comedy background.
Yeah.
So I do think that Mike Myers is like better in the second one because of the way that it's directed, because the comedy is a little bit more like the focal point. Whereas in the first one, it was probably more focused on like making these two goofballs like live in a world, or like some semi-realistic world that's like enjoyable for us to watch. Like it's a little bit more like grounded and like serious, I feel like. I guess there was a lot of controversy on the first one between Penelope and Mike Myers, where like she was like, you know, quoted saying that he was acting like a baby all the time, and he was complaining that things aren't funny, and that he was just like a pain to work with. And then she thinks that he had an influence on why she didn't come back to direct the second one. They've squashed that beef like over the years and stuff, but if you can like look it up and like, but in general, I'm gonna say I really think these movies are funny because of Dana Carvey.
I don't know. It's definitely more like he's the niche comedy guy, and it's not for me. I think he's better in the second one because the plot is more ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good character in those heightened scenarios because they like tease the like some of the sex jokes in the first one, but in the second one where it's like
it's just Kim
what
Basinger.
what does she say, like I want you to take me somewhere, and he's like, where can we go? I'm low on gas and you need a jacket.
Take me, Garth.
Where? I'm low on gas and you need a jacket.
I'm gonna be frank.
Okay. Can I still be Garth?
Because he's trying to seduce him, and it's just he plays so much more to the comedy in the second one. And I guess here's what my point is: when his character Garth plays more to the comedy, I think he shines, and that's a really good performance. A lot of the first one, and still I would say a good portion of the second one, he's too underplayed, and I can understand them wanting to be like, they wanted to be more of like a subtle performance, but I don't think that mixes well with the delivery he's trying to go for. He needs to be the main character. He needs to be the straight man in like a series of like just crazy circumstances happening around him. Mm-hmm. When he's the sidekick and everything's happening to Michael Myers, he really fades into the background for me, or the comedy just doesn't land.
Well, I mean, I think they obviously work well as a duo. I just think rewatching these, I prefer like when it's just isolated Garth versus when it's just isolated Wayne, because Wayne,
when they use him best when he's alone.
Yeah, because Wayne, like the things that are annoying about his character, but just in general, like the fact that Wayne has this like beautiful girlfriend Cassandra. Mm-hmm. Like, it's believable why they're together, I guess, as far as movie rules go, but they don't even justify it until the second one, where he just flat out asks her, he's like, why are you dating me?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you're great. Like, other guys suck or whatever. It's like, okay, sure, whatever. But even in the first one, each movie contains like Wayne getting jealous or mad or just not being able to handle being with her. Yeah. And he just like blows his shot, but then she just magically ends up with him at the end. So it's like
they're destined to be together, it seems like.
I feel like they're trying to do this thing with Mike Myers in general. And they always do this with like leading comedy men, whether it's like Adam Sandler or whatever, where it's like, oh, women just like love the leading man. But why even have like a love interest in this like world? Like, I would argue that it works better.
It was the 90s, everyone needed
I know, but it just works better when it's like the two of them being kind of outcasts and weirdos and just having these maybe random interactions with women, opposed to like, you know, when Wayne's at the office, I believe in, is it the first one or the second one where he sees Drew Barrymore as the receptionist?
I believe it was the second one.
Okay. When she's like she's like from Sweden or something like that, or Jurgen, I don't know.
That's Sweden, yeah. They talk like that.
Yeah, so she's from Sweden, and then, you know, Wayne just happens to know all this stuff about Sweden because he wrote like an 8th grade report on it. And then Drew Barrymore's like, I wish to make love to you one day because you know so much about my country. Like, I'm okay with interactions like that with these characters, where it's like other unique people being attracted to other unique people.
It's just the effort being put in.
Yeah, it's just like something kooky like that. And I think it would actually be better if that was like his love interest was like that Sweden girl.
Or they something. They do the thing in the first one where he speaks Cantonese to...
Oh, well, yeah, he learns it in the first one to Cassandra. And then the second one, he's just flat out speaking it when he's fighting his father.
But the whole point of the first one is that he learns it to impress her. So it's like he does...
Yeah.
It's just they stop it. He doesn't do anything else to like keep Cassandra, like, for lack of a better word, like interested.
But Mike Myers is not Mike Myers, but Wayne is such a insecure, petty character. And then the second one, it's the same kind of thing where it's like, oh man, I'll never be as successful or like, you know, rich as, or have the connections as Bobby.
I thought it was more so he can't live up to Cassandra's father's expectations.
I mean, sure, but like, I don't know. There's just something, it's always that he is not enough, and his response to that is by kind of overreacting and then breaking up with her, or then like, you know, stalking her. Like, he's taking pictures of her and Bobby in the second one one, even though it leads to the really funny YMCA scene. But still, like, he's just like such a...
He's flawed.
He's not deserved, like, he doesn't deserve love, I don't think.
He's flawed.
Wayne
Now, it'd be one
Campbell-
thing if he overcame that flaw in some way.
He
but
never
never
does. He never does. It's
He never does.
So that's the thing, is it's like this whole franchise is interesting because the first one is like successful, and it might be one of those situations where it's more successful than they thought it would be, and then they make a sequel and they kind of do a family Addams Family Values thing where they just make it a true comedy sequel. But
Oh yeah, it is very similar.
it's interesting about this because the first one has a budget of $20 million, and it's got a box office return of $183.1 million. So it's a huge box office hit, and it was like #1 in the theaters for a while. And then even in regards to Rotten Tomatoes scores, it's got a 79% on Rotten Tomatoes, and then it's got an 84% audience score. But then when you look at the second one, okay, so it's like, we have a smash hit, nothing should go wrong, kind of in the same way with, like, you know, like I just said, like Addams Family Values. So this one, it's got a $40 million budget, and it only makes 72 million backs at the box office.
I think that could be because it also came out very soon on the heels of the first one, I feel like.
Well, not only that, it also dropped critically. It's got a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the audience score only has a 63%.
Well, 60 is still fresh in my book. That's better than I thought they would give it, just the way they normally judge these comedy sequels.
But those are both like 20% drops across the board. And the only reason maybe why I could see it being like having that drop is because if it is only like a year or two apart, and there are a lot of the same kind of retreaded beats in the second one, people probably thought like, oh, that's lazy. But for you and me watching them back to back, those beats were necessary, but then there was also new jokes that were funnier than maybe some of the jokes in the first one.
I'll also just say, like, when they go back and revisit those beats, they do them better. The look for love is so much better. In this one, they give Garth a ridiculous girlfriend who just asks him to do something ridiculous in the sequel instead of, I don't even know what they do with the romantic interest in the first one for Garth. I know that they just end up together in the end when they do the happy ending.
Yeah, she's just like a pretty like blonde girl that Garth like finds attractive. He like, I think she's the one that he sings Foxy to in his head, like at the diner.
Okay.
You know?
So they turn a gag into like an actual full-blown like series of gags, which could be construed as like a character arc.
Oh, darling, with all this talk about killing and 45 Magnums with the clip file down and the safety off, oh, it's just all so confusing. I won't let you.
He is a dead man.
The first one really has that kind of like by the book story where it's like two goofballs, they have this thing, corporate people come in, they buy it from them, they try to corporatize it. At the same time, he's got a love interest. It all kind of merges at the end. The second one's weird because it's like, okay, we're going to put on Wayne stock. How do we do that? Well, we have to go to England first and we have to get this guy.
That's why it works. The first one is more interesting because the way it's executed juxtaposes the comedy. I would argue I don't think it does it enough to make it actually effective.
Yeah.
But I think there's enough there for it to be interesting. The second one is shot to complement the comedy. So I would argue even though the first one's more interesting, the second one's better. It's more effective as a comedy. It's funnier. But like, yeah, it's like they're just going all over the place because what is it? They have to find the most famous roadie in the world.
Yeah.
Because he knows how to bring all these bands, like he would know how to bring all these bands together, but they have to go to England to find him. So it's just, it's just more of an excuse to hang these comedy bits off of. And the comedy bits are more funny because the plot is built around them instead of vice versa.
To be honest, I think it feels more like a cartoon or like a TV show where it's like, oh, let's take these characters, now they're going to do this.
I mean, you're right, but that doesn't make it any less of like... A one-off can still be a good sequel.
But this is telling because this is actually the reason why the plot is the way it is in the second one. So apparently the original script for the second one was about Wayne and Garth like succeeding from the United States and starting their own country. But one of the executive producers didn't read the script and didn't know what the script was about. And when he found out, like it's something just wackier for the second one, he freaked the hell out. And then they were just like, okay, we'll just write a whole new script. And that's why it's definitely different from the first one, but it's still impressive that they rewrote that on the fly and they still got this.
And it's still that effective.
I don't know. I mean, in general, like looking at Mike Myers' career, I feel like he's probably more known at this point for like the Austin Powers than the Wayne's World. Like I do like the Wayne's World franchise. I'm glad that they didn't make a third one, even though that they have come back throughout the years. Like on SNL and stuff like that. But rewatching this, there definitely was more of an appreciation for Dana Carvey as Garth than there was Mike Myers and the Wayne's World as a whole. As far as like the bits go in each of them, there are funny bits, whether it's him doing the fake like Oscar performance in the first one, trying to win Cassandra back, and he's splashing water in his face to look like tears. And then in the second one with just doing the Mrs. Robinson ending from The Graduate. I think the Wayne's World franchise is going to be looked back on more for like the little one-offs and the bits that they do within the movies than the actual like characters and how they live in this world. Like, and I like this in the second one where there's just people like walking back and forth in the street with glass and like watermelons and chickens or whatever. Like that's why
I wonder if this is going to call back.
Yeah, like that's why you go to this world. So that's the thing, is I think there could have been more bits in the first one with that tone. But I don't know.
The second one is funnier and this is a comedy. So why is the first one more successful?
Because, well, the first one's more successful because it's the first one,
I guess.
And also, you know, the second one had some stiff competition in the theaters when it came out. Came out the same weekend as Mrs. Doubtfire,
Oof.
Schindler's List, and The Pelican Brief.
Ooh.
But I mean, okay, so even if we're just going about comedies, like Mrs. Doubtfire,
I was gonna say,
that was huge.
Everyone's gonna go see Robin Williams instead.
So I don't know. I mean, it's definitely not as bad as Blues Brothers 2000 because at least like you have Mike Myers at the helm instead of Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
But I do feel in general that there is like a swing and a miss as far as the whole franchise goes. And also, just really quick to go back to this Del Preston in the second one. So they get this guy to help them put on the concert. What does he really do? He helps them get a stage built, and he helps them train like Chris Farley and the others of how to be like roadies, or
like pick up the mic when it falls down.
Mic when it falls down. And then he's got like stories about all of his like history in like rock and roll music. But he really doesn't do anything.
Well,
like,
he's a funny character. That's his job.
It would have been funny if they got this guy thinking that he was going to help, and then every time they go to one of these bands, the bands are like, oh, I'm not working with Del Preston. Fuck that guy. He did this to me. He did this to me.
No.
But that's like that's them actually trying to like tell a story.
No, because then the characters are in on the joke in that case, and they can't be. Everyone has to think that he's a good roadie, even though he's not.
I think you asked me also between the first and the second one, does Chris Farley's character, is that the same character in the first one and the second one? Where in the first one he's just there to dump exposition to Wayne and Garth about like where the music producer guy is going to be in his car. Growing up, more friends of mine quoted Chris Farley from the second one.
I don't know, man. I hate my father. I hate my life. But I feel great, man. You guys are great. I'm gonna go pick a fight.
He's gotten a lot better, don't you think?
Way better.
And to be honest, just to really quickly talk about Christopher Walken, he's definitely more memorable than Rob Lowe, I feel like, because Rob Lowe, like you said, is really boring, and he's being funny, I guess, in the sense of duping Wayne and Garth in the first one to sign over their business, and just in like the cadence in which he's talking. Because they do the thing where Wayne and Garth say, a sphincter says what? And he says what? And then they laugh. In the second one, it's funnier because they say it to Christopher Walken where they go, a sphincter says what? And he goes, you want me to say what, right? And then they have that reaction like, oh,
yeah,
you're so big. You're so small.
That was great.
That was a funny bit, actually, right?
You want me to say what? Like, I don't get it. Is that it? That it?
Oh dear, last guy didn't get. Okay, last guy didn't get. You big, we small, so we better go.
So I think that because the second one's a little funnier, you remember Christopher Walken more, but his character is just as ridiculous and stupid. He's trying to sign this,
But it's funny because it's Christopher Walken.
I know, but
when it's some like schmo like Rob Lowe who's just like the corporate guy, it's like, yeah, because that's what you expect. Now you have Christopher Walken being like the sleazy like con man, but he's like so charming and so like distinguished, in my opinion, that it's like it contrasts. So that's where the comedy comes from.
You said it was justified that Cassandra marries him at the end, or tries to marry him, because the father approves it. But
because the father approval scene is so ridiculous that it sets up another ridiculous scene with the marriage.
I know, but there wasn't even a scene with Christopher Walken and the father before the wedding.
It doesn't matter. That's what Wayne and the father were we're fighting over.
I know.
It's all set up. It all pays off. Wayne's World 2 is good, honestly, like smart comedy in the way that it's written smart. It's set up, it pays off. The references are intelligent.
But it is weird because and we're going to get into the voting really quickly about this, but just even in regards to like a sequel, like, is this a sequel or is this just a soft reboot?
Real quick, I would just argue no, because in the big thing for me with Addams Family was it's the same story. In this, at the very least, the main story is different. Mm-hmm. It's them potentially losing the show in the first one to Wayne having a quote quarter life crisis in the second one. So I think the main plot is different enough that it's technically a sequel. What's happening is they're just recycling the jokes, and it's excusable because at least this time they're executing it correctly, the jokes.
But like...
Because every time a joke is recycled, at least it's better.
Sure, it's just the plot is just so wonky.
At least it's original.
The plot is like Chris Farley when he's getting yelled at by Mike Myers, and he's like, what are you doing here? You don't belong. It's like, I got nowhere else to go.
You're worthless! You're less than nothing! What's keeping you here? You don't belong here! Why don't you just quit?
I got no place else to go.
So as always on this podcast, we ask 3 questions that lead to a final vote of is it worth going back again? And the first question is, does it work as a sequel?
Kind of going into what I was saying before we jumped into the rankings, I'm going to say yes. Because real quick, the plot is different enough and the characters show, I'll say at least Wayne shows the potential for change when he's having this like internal conflict. Mm-hmm. I think a big thing that kind of makes this question a no is the characters haven't grown like between movies. Mm-hmm. And I would argue that Wayne hasn't either, but at least in the second one, he shows the potential for growth. So it's not a perfect yes, but it's yet enough of a yes. I'm
going to go a little harsher, and I'm going to say it doesn't work as a sequel, only because I feel like all the bands that he says in that initial pitch of who's coming to Waynestock don't show up at the end.
That's like a technicality, though.
But that's to me, that's like...
Oh, set up and then not pay off.
Yeah, set up and not pay off. And in a movie where there's not going to be that much payoff, and I accept that.
There is. I think the comedy pays off. The plot doesn't.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. When I talk about does it work as a sequel, I'm talking about the plot.
Okay.
And I'm saying like, okay, there is a little bit of growth. I'll give it that because he's having like that existential crisis. But that big one doesn't pay off. The thing that he throws out of his ass with all the bands, none of the bands come back except for Aerosmith and Rip Taylor. And Rip Taylor's not even a band. And then the second thing is the Waynestock thing, because I feel like you could have still had an existential crisis of what should I do, and you should have just done what's naturally the next step with their TV show, which is the TV show is like over and he has to figure out what he's going to do next as Wayne.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
He already got like a 5-year success. Like this is the distant future.
Exactly.
He's had like 3 or 4 years of success and now he's got to find out what's next.
So that's
fine.
So that point it's fine. He can still throw a big concert, or he could like try to find like a venue that he's going to own so he can have bands all the time or something. Mm-hmm. I don't care what it is. All I'm saying is that the Waynestock thing is really thrown in there, and if you're going to throw it in, at least pay it off, and they don't pay it off. Sequel.
It sounds like this is a technical question. Does it work as a sequel? And you're saying like no because I don't like it.
No, I'm saying no because they don't finish it. And even if you're going to do the lazy version of this, which is he's in a desperate situation, he pitches last minute, like just like pulling stuff out of his ass saying, I'm going to have this band, this band, this band. That's fine. If they just would have had those bands be there at the end, I would have said it worked as a sequel, but it doesn't. Like it's either trying to be a movie or it's trying to be a comedy, and it more so focuses on being a comedy, but the plot's too big for the comedy.
I'm so lenient. I think it's fine. I think they did.
So that sounds like it's going to get a check and an X. So the next question is going to be, is it enjoyable / entertaining? And I'll start off this one and I'll make it quick. Yes, I do think it's enjoyable / entertaining. I think it's funnier. I think there are more like bits, set pieces, character moments that are great. And in general, I think the movie, the way it's directed, is very kind of, I think there's more energy to it because I think that's more so matching what Mike Myers and Dana Carvey are going for with their characters. So I do think it's enjoyable / entertaining besides the issues I have with the plot.
I think it's better than the first one. I think it is. The comedy pays off better. The only downside I can say to the enjoyability factor is seeing some repeat jokes from the first one. But if you're not watching them immediately back to back, I guess that's kind of the thing is it's not a lazy callback if they're improving it. So I don't even think you could ding them for that.
I remember a callback that you said that you didn't like in the second one, which is when they're playing hockey. And
I didn't like. It's not that I didn't like it. It's just it was better in the first one.
It was just, but it felt like a beat that they repeated just because that was them. But the point that they missed.
Well, it was also like they were just delivering exposition. So it's like, okay, we need something interesting while we're talking about exposition. Let's just copy a beat from the first one. All right, we're playing hockey.
But the first one's funnier because it's just them in the street and they have
because they're playing in the street like kids.
Yeah,
and it's like car,
and that's just.
And then in the sequel, they're just playing in their apartment.
Yeah, and it's right after Garth has had like sex for the first time or something, and it's that
didn't pay off as hard for me. But you know, it's still enjoyable / entertaining, even though it's not all the comedy hits all the time.
Yeah, there's definitely I think more like references of comedy in the second one that might make it.
You mean like, comedic references?
Like like pop culture references. Like there's Jurassic Park, there's Thelma and Louise,
Scooby-Doo in the first one. There's a lot in the first one too. I guess that's the thing.
I felt like there were more in the second one. But either way, that sounds like it's
gonna... Well, I'll tell you what. I feel like the second one, either Mike Myers felt like he could improv more or he just was allowed to improv more. And I think it's safe to improv into references. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there were more references in the sequel because he was improving more in the sequel. I feel like when you improv, you kind of default. I think a lot of comedians kind of default to references.
Mm-hmm. So that sounds like it's going to get 2 checks. So the last question is going to be, does it need to exist? And you can finish off this one.
Yeah, because it's better.
I also think it needs to exist. I do think it's funny. I'm going
to finish my point real quick because I'm just going to put a button on it. You can't have a serious director directing the comedy.
Yes, you can.
In the first one.
But you have to be in...
You have to be in all the way. You can't be half in like Mike Myers was.
Yeah. You have to trust the director.
Exactly, yeah.
Or you just have to like fight them, which is what he did.
Yeah,
you know?
okay, I'll take that back then. You can't have a dramatic director doing your comedy unless you're going to commit to that vision.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like they did in the first one. They needed a redo. It didn't matter if they went all into the comedy or all into the grounded approach. They needed to pick one. They picked one in the sequel. They went with the comedy. It worked. That made it better.
So then my question is why is this first one more loved than the second one?
I think, like you said, it had it had less competition in the theater, and it was fresh.
But that's box office. But I'm also talking about like the critical response.
I would say because it was fresh.
Okay. So if you're doing that math at home, that's going to be 5 checks and 1 X. So it is going to get 1 giant check for worth going back again. And yeah, I mean, you gave it checks across the board, which is interesting. I wanted to be still a little bit more truthful to the first question of like, does it work as like a sequel? As always, thanks everyone for listening. If you like this episode, you can listen to more episodes of the Back Again podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can watch these videos on YouTube with video. Just subscribe to What a Guy Productions. And outside of that, you got anything else to add, Drew?
Then why were we supposed to put on the concert?
Because you had to try and do something with your life.
But it was a failure.
Whether you won or lost, what's important is that you gave it your best shot.
All right, everyone, we will see you next time.
I'm back again.